So we just covered payment plans and free trials or trial with penalties, whatever you want to say it. Now we have the third and final of the downsell offers, which I like to call feature downsells. Let's begin. The same five: how I learned it, description, examples, important points, and summary. Look how clean this drawing looks. So nice. Okay. So fundamentally, you want to buy the thing. No, it's too much. I remove some features. I say, how about now? That's how this works. All right. So, how I learned it. A friend of mine told me that he had 3x his close rate last quarter from 25% to 75%. And I was like, what on God's earth did you do? And so I asked him if he used a payment plan or a discount. And he said neither. And I was like, okay, how does that work? He said he lowered his price by removing a feature. And I was like, well, what feature did you remove? And he said, my guarantee. I was like, what? He said, yeah. So I have my $4,000 thing. And then people say, no, I can't afford that. And he says, no worries. He said, I can do it for $2,000. I just won't give you a guarantee. And then what happens is people see the value of the guarantee now, and then they reclose themselves on the higher priced offer. And so we went from 25 out of 100 people buying the expensive thing to 35 buying an expensive thing and 40 buying the downsell. That's how I learned the feature downsell process. So here's the description. So feature downsells lower prices by changing what the customers get. So here we're actually lowering prices. All the other examples were changing terms. Here we lower prices. And I do them by offering less quantity, less quality, lower price alternatives, or cutting optional components. So all features have a price and a value. This is where it gets really, really slick. If you remove something, the price goes down. Sure. But the value goes down too. So what features you remove and how much you lower the price affects how good of a deal the person gets. So this changes in your offer's price to value affects how people buy. So people want to get the best deal for them. And so if you remove stuff they hate and then lower the price a lot, they get a great deal. If you remove stuff they love and lower the price a little, they get a worse deal. And this is where the science of feature downselling becomes really, really sexy. All right. So people will see the value in the thing you removed after they see the difference in price. As in, people will weigh how much money they save against how much value they lose. So feature downselling gets customers to re-upsell themselves on the more expensive offers. So this means that you want to remove features from highest to lowest value. Since people want more value for their money, this incentivizes customers to get the highest value purchase for them. Feature downsells have a simple formula. Take something away, lower the price, and in so many words, ask, how about now? So let's do some examples. So let's say we're downselling product and service quality. So for services, this might mean a lower amount, fewer sessions, less time, shorter duration. For products, it might mean fewer of them. All right, so a product quantity downsell would be, hey, instead of a 3-month supply, how about we start with just 1-month supply? A service quality downsell might be saying, instead of 4 sessions a month, why don't we start you at 2 sessions a month? So this is service and quantity. All right, so let's talk about product quality. So here's how we would downsell. You think about older versions, less reliable materials, materials of lower social status, etc. All right, so product quality. Say, instead of a set of leather seats, how do vinyl seats work? How's that sound? Feature downselling service quality is a little bit more complex because there's a whole bunch of them. All right, so this means a lot of things, and I'll give you a few ways that I change the quality of services. And the hint is that this always works to increase service quality as well. So you can go the other direction as well. When you're thinking about each of these vectors of quality for services, you can make your more expensive thing have more of these. All right, so instead of a 5-minute response time, why don't we just start you at overnight response times? You'll still save some money, and you'll get your answers, just with a small delay. Here are some more service quality features. So time availability. So specific times versus whenever you want. Whenever you want is obviously more valuable. So if you're downselling, you'd say, all right, well, you can only come on these office hours rather than whenever you want. So days of week, so that would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday versus all days. It could be times of day, so 9 to 5 versus 24 hours. It could be amount of time, so you get 15 minutes support calls versus 60 minute support calls. It could be location availability. This is where one location versus all locations we own. It could be cancellations, which means you can have reschedule fees or it's free for you to reschedule. Speed of response. You can reply in minutes versus hours versus days. Speed of delivery. So you can wait in line versus priority versus same day versus next week. These are all different. Service ratio, one-on-one, one-on-many, many to one, which is the ultimate version of this. I have many of my team members on one person. Communication method. So text support versus chat support versus video support. You've got provider qualification. So is it the owner, a longtime employee, or a new employee who's super junior? Is it live versus recorded? So you can watch it happen now or watch it after it happens later. You can have in-person versus remote. Would you rather be here in person with me or watch it somewhere else? Would you rather do it yourself? Would you rather us do it with you? Or would you rather us do it for you? Expiration. So this thing works forever, or only works X times, or only works at specific times. Personalization. Do you want it generic? Or do you want it made just for you? Insurance guarantees. So this is think of like lengths of time. So this works for 1 year or for life in terms of the guarantee. So coverage. This works when specific bad thing happens, or works when any bad thing happens. Terms. Unconditional or only if you do X, Y, and Z. It's a conditional guarantee. So all of those things are quality service downsells, which you can also flip into upsells. But if you're thinking about like, man, how do I remove features? Well, you probably haven't even quantified half of these for yourself. So quantify what your service expectations are. You don't need to mention any of this stuff to somebody, but when you want to start peeling things back, you then tell them what it is and then remove it. So downselling by removing entire features. So rather than lowering quantity or quality, remove the feature itself. So in the story, he removed a guarantee. So instead of priority chat support, email support, and calls, why don't we just keep it to chat and email support, but drop the calls to save you some money? You'll still get your answers. It'll save us some time, and we can pass those savings on to you. So we remove this stuff, and then they can keep that stuff for a lower price. So feature downselling done for you to do it yourself. So this is a key one. This probably happens for a lot of service businesses. So some of you guys have like online trainings and things like that, one-to-many, that you're like, hey, what if I downsell something else? Most of the times you should just ignore it. But if you do insist, here's a way to do it. So if someone says no to all your service downsells, you can downsell another product that solves the same problem. So for a chiropractor, for example, you say, hey, instead of chiropractic adjustments, let's just start you with some tools you can do it yourself at home. Then you'd sell home massage tools, foam rollers, mats, etc. So this is just like the no sale sale that I had in the supplement thing, where someone doesn't come in, they don't want to buy the service, we say, fine, we'll do a nutrition consult, and then we sell them the do-it-yourself version, which was the at-home thumb drive with nutritional support. But if you're going to do this other thing, what happens? You open up a whole other can of problems that we get to solve through them buying more stuff. If you're a painter, well, if you can't afford me painting your house, why don't I just give you the paint and let you lease one of our spray machines for daily use? Easy downsell. Alex Ramosi, instead of me and my team buying your company and actively growing your business, why don't you just attend a workshop? Cough, go to acquisition.com, right? That's the idea. So done for you is me and my whole team doing everything we possibly can for good, forever. Well, if I peel that back to, okay, well, just come to a workshop and you get a couple days and we're going to look at all the things that we would do. We'll tell you exactly what we do, but it would be in an hour rather than for life. It's 2 days. The hour is if you're with one of our experts. Okay, so let's do important points. So remember, never negotiate price. Maintain the position of a helpful guide. So remember, feature downselling means trying to find the best deal for them. You can have unlimited shots on goal with a customer as long as you remain helpful. You're like, totally understand. Let's see if we can figure out something that'll work for you. No one's offended by that. If you're like, oh, if you don't do that, do this. It's like, it feels a little icky. So you just want to keep that frame back foot of like, let's just find something that works for you, man. Tweak. Okay, this is important. So tweak your feature downsell process. So we have the job of making the product have the highest value to cost in the eyes of the customer. But in the beginning, you won't know much about your customer preferences. So as you solve the same problems for the same type of customer, you want to learn what they find most valuable. And then you'll start standardizing it, because if everyone has the same order of importance or preference, then when you remove things, you can remove things in a specific order. Like my friend removed the guarantee and he knew that got the highest amount of uptakes. All right. So here's how I standardize my downsell process. So first, I cut something valuable and lower the price a little bit. All right. So that's exactly what he did. So he had his guarantee thing. He lowered the price. Now I said 2,000. I don't remember what he lowered his price as, but if let's say it was $4,000 and he says, okay, well, I'll remove the guarantee and offer it for 3,500. Because it's a tiny amount different and I took something really valuable away, they're like, oh no, I'd rather have this. So they re-upsell themselves because I took something really valuable and decreased the price a little. Now, at this point, if they say no to that, I do that to get them to reconsider the original price. If that fails, I continue removing features and lowering prices until they buy. So I'd rather have people get something rather than getting nothing. Now, at this point, the next feature I would typically remove, I would have a big decrease in price, because now I'm saying, okay, this might be a price issue. So now I'm going to try and take away things that they don't care about with a big decrease in price, and now I'm increasing the value. So basically, the first one is like a hip check of like, big valuable thing like a guarantee, tiny decrease in price, they re-upsell. If they don't re-upsell, then we say, hey, let's put the guarantee back in and let's take this other feature away and take a massive amount off the price. And then at that point, they're like, oh, wow, less of this thing I don't care about and way lower price. Sounds good to me. All right. Now, if you want, you can start naming your feature combination, first class, business class, economy, as you remove features and change prices. Now, I prefer to name my cheapest combination, remember the rental car story, the minimum. So I like it because it implies that they have to get at least that thing. And if someone rejects all of the packages, I just say, so nothing more than the minimum package then? Same as they told me. And we do that because it always only works. Uh, doesn't always work, but it's very effective. Okay, so just like we have our temperature check during the payment plan downsell process, we also have a temperature check during the feature downsell process. So if you make 2 changes in a row and they still refuse, make sure they still want the thing. You still say the same, hey, real quick, just to make sure that we're on the same scale here. 1 to 10, how bad do you want this thing? Now, again, if they say 8 to 10, cool, we're going to figure out something that'll work for you. They say less than 10, it's like, hey, maybe I need to reconfigure this thing, or let's just figure out different terms of payment. And you actually cross-sell back to the payment plan downsells. So 8 or above, start payment plan downselling. After each downsell, ask deal or fair enough. And this is something that I've just found that works ridiculously well with feature downsells or payment plan downsells, is that you're fundamentally kind of in like a barter mode, not in a bad way. It's just like, hey, let me make this work for you. So if we did this, would that work for you? Right? Does that sound fair? That like deal? That work? When you say those types of things, people have a hard time denying reciprocity. And so you say, I want this thing. You say, got it. I will meet your terms. I will remove this thing, but now you will meet my price. Fair enough? And if you do that 2 or 3 times, it's very hard for people to say no, because it's hard for them to say, no, that's not fair. And my podcast, episode 202, I give a full verbal breakdown of exactly how I say this with tonality. So if you want to listen to my podcast, episode 202, Alex Ramosi, The Game, you can listen to me actually walking this through. And so if you've got sales guys who do downsells, like, highly recommend. Now, free orientations boost do-it-yourself feature downsells. So let me explain what I mean. So I ask, so even though we're not going to work together, so this is like now they're not buying anything on X, I still want to help. This is like the nutrition thing. How about you just come to a free orientation on X tomorrow? At the end of the orientation, I offer a DIY product that solves the same problem as the done-for-you services, just at a lower price. So I could also say, come to our home painters orientation. And so at the home painting orientation, I could then sell the daily rental of my machines and some buckets of paint for them to go do it. Right? That's the idea. So we just have another way, another version of our offer that doesn't take much time from us for them to do it and still pay us. Now, just as little pro tips here, highly recommend feature downselling your guarantee. Tiny decrease in price, remove guarantee. Many people re-upsell themselves. And you could also feature downsell current customers. So this is a pro tip. So we found across our portfolio companies something really interesting. So when we compared LTV across all service segments, there was a service segment that was, unbeknownst to me, that was the second highest LTV. And the reason that it was unbeknownst to me or interesting was that they were at a far lower price. So typically the highest LTV customers are the ones that pay the most. But in this instance, the churn was so low on these low to mid-priced customers that they ended up being worth a lot of money. And so this is what was different about this particular customer group. The customers that we in our companies had proactively went to, this is after we've already sold them stuff, said, hey, you're only using 4 out of the 6 services that we offer, or you're only using 4 out of the 6 features. Did you know that you can get these 4 features at this lower rate? People are like, oh, no, I didn't know that. And as soon as we say, great, well, why don't I just go ahead and take care of that for you, and I'll just lower you to this rate, that way you have the better deal for you. Those people never leave. So if you have people, there's this big misnomer, it's like, well, hopefully I'll just build them as long as I can. No. Find hey, I get where you're coming from. This blew my mind, which is why I'm sharing it with you. If you see people aren't using your stuff, they're going to cancel. And I have tons of data to support this on the gym side. I'm sure it works across all businesses. But if people don't consume the stuff, they cancel at a much faster rate. And so it's much easier to just adjust down the price to match what they actually use, because that's what they're actually getting value from. And then they're like, wow, these guys are ethical and honest. They proactively asked me to pay less. I love these guys. They went from being like, I might cancel because I'm not using some of this stuff, to these guys are amazing because they initiated it. So sure, you can do this on a cancellation call. That's kind of like a last chance, but you get the goodwill if you do it by you reaching out to them. And this is the last one that I love. This is the only way that you can lower your price. All right, so you can quote me here. This is the big exception, that you can lower your price without changing what you give them. And that's because you change what they give you. So let's say I have a $500 thing and they say, I just absolutely cannot afford anything less than $400. And I say, totally understand. But for $400, you would do it. Yes. Okay. I will accept that under these terms. So now I've changed the offer. I say, I'll do that if you leave me reviews on all these sites, you leave me testimonials, you post every day, and you send me 2 referrals right now. Introduce me to 2 people. By doing this, I then trade $100 for what is hopefully more valuable to me than $100 of advertising. And so every person can do other stuff. And so fundamentally, this is price plus barter. So if somebody comes to me, and I did this, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, Susan signed up for $400 and I signed up for $600. I'm like, oh, do you want to do what Susan did? Because I would love that. Because Susan cleans my gym for me every day. And she also introduced me to 3 of her friends and she posts on Facebook every day. Do you want to do that? We can get you set up right now. And they're like, oh, I'll keep the 600. I'm like, got it. No worries. So you absolutely have your ass covered because these are the terms under which Susan did pay less. And so if someone absolutely no way can pay less, barter. Because there's always some things that they can do for you. And most of the time, that's going to be in the form of advertising. They can leave you reviews, they can leave you testimonials, and they can send you friends. So, summary. So feature downsells lower prices by removing stuff. You take something away, lower the price, can ask, how about now? Typical feature downsells offer less quantity, less quality, cheaper alternatives, or remove features altogether. People tend to see the value in what you removed after they see the price difference. You may get more people to take the more expensive stuff by doing it this way. If you remove stuff they hate and lower the price a lot, more people will take the downsell. If you remove stuff they love and lower the price a little, more people will take the original offer. So the first downsell gets them to reconsider my first offer. The rest of my downsells get them to consider the best deal for them. If a prospect rejects multiple downsells, see if they still want your thing before continuing. This is the 8 to 10 thing. If a prospect likes a combination of features but still doesn't like the price, start payment plan downselling, which is very effective at this point because now you've really got this thing right for them. It's like, okay, this is a suite of features. This is the price. They're like, no, this is everything I want. I just can't afford it. And you're like, can you afford it in general or not afford it today? And they're like, today. Cool. Then let's break this out. How can you do half now? How can you get paid? And then you go down that path. Now, you can feature downsell existing customers before they cancel, which actually extends the LTV. And you can discount customers in exchange for them advertising your business. Those are feature downsells. And finishes or concludes our downsell offer section. And in the next and final of the four prongs, we talk about continuity offers.